Now, we know that Gray died after he was arrested by police in Baltimore. We know he had a spinal injury. What we don't know is whether something happened inside that police van that caused that injury or if it happened before or some combination of both. So we wanted to give you a look inside the type of vehicle, something most of us haven't seen the inside of before. DeKalb County, Georgia Police Captain Steve Ford joins me now. Captain Ford, can you just take us inside, show us exactly what the back of a transport van looks like?
Sure. This right here is our prisoner transport vehicle. It is 10 feet deep inside, 5 feet wide. There's a metal partition down the center. It's approximately 4 feet in height. On the interior of the van, there's seating for 5 prisoners on each side of the partition. Each prisoner has their own individual seat belt. Once they're placed inside, they're seat belted in.
And the partition that separates the driver from the suspects, is that soundproof? Can the driver hear what's going on in the back?
No, it is not soundproof. Drivers can hear any loud activity or anything that would be taking place in the back. The interior is also lit. There's lighting along the upper wall of the interior. So in nighttime circumstances, it could still be viewed activity taking place inside the transport vehicle.
And can you just show us the seatbelts? I mean, how easy or difficult is it to put a seatbelt on somebody? Is it a complicated process, or is it just, as we all know, how to put a seatbelt on somebody?
No, it's not a complicated process at all. It's the standard lap belt, seat belt. Prisoner would be seated into the seat belt. The belt would be adjusted to their waist, would be locked in place and tightened down around the waist to hold them into position.
And if the vehicle, we don't know exactly, obviously, what happened to Mr. Gray. The police say, the police lawyer believes something happened when he was in the van. They don't believe he received those injuries. Again, this is the police attorney, don't believe that he received those injuries until he was in the van. If the only thing I can think of, besides somebody else being in the vehicle with him, if he didn't receive the injuries before, is the vehicle driving so erratically that he's being slammed around from one side to another. Is that even possible if somebody's face down on the floor and a vehicle is moving from side to side? Is there much room for a person to kind of be flung around in there?
It really depends on the size of the person. As you can see through the walkway here, there's not a lot of space. Plus there's a metal partition here as well, separating both sides of the prisoner transport van.
And the edge on the seat, I know this is kind of a specific question, but the edge on the seat, is that relatively sharp? Is it, I couldn't see if it goes, if it's a 90-degree angle, or if it's, something that if somebody slammed against, if it could potentially bruise them or harm them.
No, the edges of the seat are not sharp at all. As a matter of fact, they are covered, as you can see here. All edges inside the vehicle are rounded edges, even the weldings. There's no sharp or protruding parts inside the vehicle.
Well, it's fascinating to get a look. Captain Ford, I really appreciate your time. Thank you.